Welcome into the PFF NFL Daily. Today discussing the New England Patriots, who are making some moves, winning 4 straight, and all of a sudden, Sam, not only playoff contenders, are they Super Bowl contenders? How much are we going to overreact to this after a dominant win against the Cleveland Browns? The Patriots are back. What do you think, Sam?
I'm not sure I'd go quite that far. I think that game probably said more about the Cleveland Browns than it said about the New England Patriots, to be honest. The thing that I'm fascinated by, though, is Mac Jones and his performance in that game, because, I've been reasonably critical of the way the Patriots have used Mac Jones. Not even critical, but just at some point, we're going to need to take the training wheels off and let Mac Jones do a little bit more and lean on him a little bit more, because that's how you're going to beat the better teams in the NFL. This sort of low risk, babying approach is only going to take you so far. The league isn't the way it used to be, and you don't have the roster that was around Tom Brady when he was in his first couple of years in the NFL. This was the game, though. Whenever they needed a big throw from Mac Jones, it was there. He was dealing some absolute dimes against this Browns defense, and he looked fantastic.
Yeah, I think the thing with Mac Jones that has remained consistent from college to the NFL is just not missing a ton of throws. He is really just extremely accurate. And then even on tight window throws, as you mentioned in this game, he was getting the ball there. So he has continued to progress. I do think as a whole, though, the Patriots team starting to come together, where early in the season it felt like, yeah, they have the run game, as you mentioned, they've got the underneath stuff, but getting better play from Kendrick Bourne, getting the tight ends involved. Now you're starting to see what this Patriots team was supposed to be, right? With all of the free agents, with all of the additions, and then Mac Jones getting better incrementally. And I think, comparing him to the other rookie quarterbacks, we thought we were going to see a new step forward in Trevor Lawrence's game a few weeks ago. That hasn't really happened. Zach Wilson's been hurt. Justin Fields may have turned a corner on Monday Night Football, but of all the quarterbacks, Mac Jones started out as the best, but he's also let's just preface this. The stats weren't as good for Mac Jones the last couple weeks, but he was still making throws. They just weren't showing up on the stat sheet. Today, it all came together, or on Sunday against the Browns, it all came together. So Mac Jones started out as the best and continuing to get better among the rookie QBs.
Yeah, not just that, but the gap between him and everybody else is actually widening. Like, he started off being the best, kind of by virtue of just being the only guy that wasn't a disaster. Trevor Lawrence has been struggling badly since day one. There's always a flash play or two in there, but the overall baseline is pretty low. Zach Wilson has been little shy of a disaster and has been kind of outshone by every other quarterback on the roster, whether it's Mike White, who came back down to earth this weekend, Josh Johnson, Joe Flacco's out there dealing touchdowns. Like, Zach just had a nightmare for the Jets so far. Fields is the one, as you say, who may have turned the corner, but he's been on a bit of a roller coaster ride. And then Trey Lance just hasn't been able to see the field. So, Mac Jones started off being the best basically because he was the only guy that was actually just delivering the ball and doing it relatively consistently, and had this reasonably high baseline of accurate, capable, efficient quarterback game managing style of play. But he is doing more now. Like, it is expanding the plays that they need him to make and that he is making. And I think because that baseline is still there, like, the gap between him and those other first round quarterbacks is only growing larger. And he's also kind of slowly and steadily climbing up the PFF rankings as well. Like, he is pushing himself pretty high.
So what else do you think this means for the Patriots here coming into this week? They had the second easiest schedule before this Cleveland game. Now, Cleveland before this game was number 10 in our power ranking. So as far as, quality wins go, this is a quality win. Obviously, they won by 1 million. And it was against a Cleveland team. I know you're saying, hey, maybe this speaks more to what Cleveland is, but they've been a good team. They've been a team that's been able to run the ball. They've got a good offensive line, and they create offense. And that defense looked like they were turning a corner in Cleveland a couple weeks ago, but not so much against New England. How dangerous is this Patriots team now? It kind of has those early Belichick Brady type of vibes, right? They're going to be scary, and they can beat you in different types of ways.
Yeah, I mean, it still feels like Buffalo is going to win the division. Maybe it'll be closer than we thought it was, but and the Patriots will run them close. But I think Buffalo still has enough to eventually go away and take the AFC East as the best team in it. But it does mean, like, it's starting to look like in this crazy AFC, the Patriots are going to make the playoffs. And obviously, anytime you make the playoffs, all bets are off. Again, particularly in this conference where every time we think there's a good team out there, they drop a game. Like the only team that hasn't happened to, at least recently, is the Tennessee Titans. And even then, if you go back far enough, you find a game where the Tennessee Titans lost to the New York Jets. So this AFC is kind of chaotic. And once you hit the postseason, any of these teams could knock off any of the others.
All right, we'll get into a little bit of the Patriots schedule and the rest of the AFC. But first, football fans, are you ready to score some free bets? Now you can when you bet on any NFL game this week with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. New customers who bet just $1 on either team to score can win $100 in free bets. When a team scores, you score. That's it. That's all that has to happen. If Sportsbook isn't yet available in your state, DraftKings won't leave you empty-handed. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings daily fantasy sports contests. And DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PFF. Bet $1 on either team to score and win $100 in free bets. If they score, you score with promo code PFF this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older. New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit, $1 wager required, one per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, I mentioned that the schedule was second easiest coming in. The remaining schedule for New England before the Cleveland game was eighth most difficult. That's going to get a little bit easier now because you have Cleveland out of the way. And it's kind of a mixed bag. They've got the Falcons on a short week coming up here on Thursday Night Football. You still have games against the Jaguars, another game against the Dolphins. But the Titans, who you mentioned before, right? They got to play them in 2 weeks. Still have 2 games against the Bills, which come in two games in 3 weeks. And you have a game at the Colts. So we're still learning more about New England, who, as of a couple weeks ago, hadn't beaten the Texans or the Jets, any other team besides the Texans or the Jets for a while. But big win against the Chargers a few weeks back. Big win against the Browns here, 45-7. Things are rounding into form, but we're going to learn a little bit more about the Patriots in the coming weeks.
Yeah, and critically, I don't think you would look at that schedule and say they can't beat any of those teams. A couple of weeks ago before they had those statement wins or they'd beaten anybody essentially of any quality, you would have said, they're not going to beat the Bills. They're not going to beat the Titans. They might not beat the Colts. We probably wouldn't have said they would beat the Browns. But all of a sudden, they beat Cleveland. They've had a couple of those statement wins. And you're saying, all right, they're probably not going to beat Buffalo, but it wouldn't blow your mind if they split that series or even if they were able to, win either one of those games, home or away. It certainly wouldn't shock me if they were the team to knock off Tennessee. And, the Colts have been better, but you wouldn't be at all surprised if the Patriots were able to beat them. So it's a harder schedule than it's been so far. But none of those teams, I think, are completely out of the realms of possibility. And the one that they face twice, that is the determining one in terms of that division. So obviously they're extra motivated for those games.
Things have really turned here, right? We're a couple weeks away, removed from being like, okay, they're 2-4. The Patriots, the sky is falling. But to your point, you're not looking at any of those games and saying, yeah, you can't win them. So it looks like New England, they're going to have about a 65% or better chance as coming out of this week to make the playoffs. So we're probably going to see a Bill Belichick back in the playoffs without Tom Brady. So there's a fun narrative right there. But let's just circle back right here to Mac Jones' development and what we saw in a game like this. In a game like the Cowboys a few weeks ago, those are his 2 games where he had elite PFF grades. Everything else has been good. It's been solid. It's been good for a rookie. But those are the 2 games where he kind of went head-to-head with Dak Prescott and made throws when he needed to, even though he didn't throw the ball a ton until late in the game. And then a game like this, to your point, taking the training wheels off, but really making the downfield throws when needed. Mac Jones' development is going to be the key here because the Patriots can win in different ways, but they're going to need an efficient quarterback. And I think Mac Jones showing that he could be that guy.
Yeah, this was the game, I think, that started to change perception in terms of where his ceiling might be. We knew his baseline was high. His floor, if you like, was really high. He's incredibly accurate, has a great command of the offense, puts the ball where it needs to go. But the question was, how much value add can he bring? How many of the big plays, how many throws can he make when it's 3rd and 12? Those are the kinds of things that a quarterback will elevate and, determine sort of how good he can be, not just how not bad he can be. And this, I think, was the first game where you start to go, okay, there's some real ability to make those crazy throws. So, you're sitting there in the Mark Brunell jersey. Mac Jones, when all said and done, better or worse than Mark?
Oh well, no, nobody's as good as Mark Brunell. Look, I am
Nobody.
a
No.
look, I am a diehard Mark Brunell fan. Even I acknowledge when I go back and watch Jaguars, he wasn't the best quarterback in the league, but he was very good in his era. But so maybe Mac Jones gets there. Too early to tell though, Sam.
Mm-hmm.
I can wear this anytime, right? The Brunell jersey,
Of course.
just part of my shtick. Anyway, the Patriots, they're hot. Everybody's gonna be talking about them this week, and they look like they're making a playoff push. It's a PFF NFL Daily.